The Senate will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Bridges. Buckner.
Present.
Coleman. Cook. Coram. Danielson.
Good morning.
Donovan. Finberg. Fields. Gardner. Janal. Gonzalez. Hanson. Heisey. Holbert. Hawkins Lewis. Kirkmeyer. Colker. Lee. Liston. Lundeen. Moreno. Pedersen. Priola. Rankin. Rodriguez. Scott.
Here.
Simpson. Smallwood. Sonnenberg. Story. Winter. Woodward. Zenzinger. Mr. President.
Here. With 35 present, 0 absent, and 0 excused, we have a quorum. Will the good senator from Brighton please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Mr. President. Would everyone please stand? Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal. Senator Colker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the Journal of Thursday, March 25th, 2021 be dispensed with, that the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Senate Services.
March 26, correctly printed Senate Bills 198, correctly engrossed Senate Bill 139, correctly re-engrossed Senate Bills 1366 and 135, correctly revised House Bills 1126 and 1005, correctly enrolled Senate Bill 24.
Committee reports.
March 25th, Committee on Agricultural and Natural Resources. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 168 be postponed indefinitely. March 25th, Committee on Agricultural and Natural Resources. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 150 be postponed indefinitely. March 25th, Committee on Agricultural and Natural Resources. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 166 be amended as follows: so amended, be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 25th, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 162 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. The recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. March 25th, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 61 be amended as follows, so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 25th, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 171 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with the recommendation to be placed on the consent calendar. March 25th, Committee on Transportation and Energy. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 114 be amended as follows, so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 25th, Committee on Transportation and Energy. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 165 be postponed indefinitely. March 25th, Committee on Education. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 167 be amended as follows, and as so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 25th, Mr. President, the Committee on Education has had in consideration and had a hearing on the following appointments. Recommends that appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the Board of Trustees of the Colorado School of Mines, effective December 31st, 2020, for terms expiring December 31st, 2024. Jesus Juan Salazar of Denver, Colorado, Democrat, who is a graduate from the Colorado School of Mines, reappointed. Bruce Eric Grucock of Omaha, Nebraska, Republican, who is a graduate of the Colorado School of Mines, appointed. Judith Z. Steinberg of Aspen, Colorado, Democrat, who is not a graduate of the Colorado School of Mines, appointed. March 25th, Committee on Education. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following: Senate Bill 151 be amended as follows, so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with recommendation to be placed on the consent calendar.
Third reading of bills. Will the clerk please read the titles to the bills listed on third reading of bills consent calendar?
Senate Bill 139 by Senators Field and Simpson, Representatives Lantina and Soper, concerning reimbursement for dental care services provided through health. House Bill 1126 by Representatives Hooton and Rich and Senator Story and Steinberg, concerning the Office of the State Architects Authority to execute leases on behalf of the state for privately owned property.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the passage of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar, which includes Senate Bill 139 and House Bill 1126.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of all the bills listed on the third reading of bills consent calendar. Are there any no votes on any of the bills listed on this calendar? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 139 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Janal, Moreno, Kolker, Lee, Kirkmeyer, Sonnenberg, Story, Bridges, Danielson, Buckner, Pedersen, Winter, please add the President. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1126 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Simpson, Hanson, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 143 come off the consent calendar and lay over until Monday, March 29th.
You have heard the motion. The motion is to remove Senate Bill 143 from the general order second reading bills consent calendar and move it to lay it over until 3/29/21. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 147 lay over until March 29th.
The motion is to lay over Senate Bill 147 until 3/29/21 and allow it to retain its place on the calendar. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Gonzalez.
Gracias, Presidente. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general order, second reading of bills consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes having the motion is adopted. And the Senate resolve itself to the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general order, second reading of bills consent calendar. And Senator Gonzalez will take the chair.
All right, y'all, the committee will come to order. The coat rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title to the bill on the general order second reading of bills consent calendar?
House Bill 1137 by Representatives Weissman and Van Winkle and Senators Lee and Gardner, concerning notification by legislative staff to members of the General Assembly regarding rules adopted as a result of legislation.
Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for the adoption of the one bill on the consent calendar and not its associated committee report, which includes House Bill 1137.
Is there any discussion on? Sorry, nope. The motion before the body is the adoption of all of the bill on the general order second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Majority Leader Fenney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Motion is for the committee to rise and report. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Committee will rise and report.
Senate will come to order. Senator Gonzalez.
Gracias, Presidente. The committee met and considered a bill. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report has had in consideration the following attached bills being the second reading thereof and makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1137 passed on second reading in order to revise and place on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Gonzalez.
Gracias, Presidente. I move for the adoption of said report.
The motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, that the committee of the whole report is adopted. House Bill 1137 passed on second reading in order to revise and place on the calendar for third reading and final passage. General order, second reading of bills. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of General Order's second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will resolve itself the committee of the whole for consideration of General Order, second reading of bills, and Senator Moreno will take the chair.
Thank you.
The committee will come to order. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 132 lay over to the bottom of the general order second reading of bills calendar.
The motion is to lay over Senate Bill 132 to the bottom of the General Order's second reading of bills reading of bills calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill will be laid over at the request of the Majority Leader. Mr. Panetta, please read the title of House Bill 1075.
House Bill 1075 by Representative Lantina and Senator Gonzalez concerning replacing the term illegal alien with worker without authorization as it relates to public contracts or services.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1075 on second reading and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1075. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Panetta, please read the title of House Bill 1054.
House Bill 1054 by Representative Jackson and Senator Gonzalez concerning a housing assistant exception to the requirement to verify lawful presence in the United States for public benefits.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1054 on second reading and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1054. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Panetta, please read the title of Senate Bill 160.
Senate Bill 160 by Senators Gardner and Representative Snyder concerning certain administrative clarification to local government election codes.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 160 and the committee report from the Senate Judiciary Committee, or this, the Senate State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee.
To the committee report, Senator Gardner.
Thank you, members. Well, members, this bill is a technical bill concerning special district elections. The committee report is some technical corrections made at the request of the Special Districts Association, who are the primary stakeholders in the bill, as well as county clerks and recorders. They got together on these. I will spare you the mind-numbing detail unless someone wishes to ask a question and ask for an aye vote on the committee report.
Is there further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk. Mr. Panetta, will you please read Amendment L003?
Amendment
Senator
L003
Gardner.
to Senate Bill 160.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L003.
To the amendment, Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, what we found when we got done was in all the drafting of references to directors and electors in this special district election bill, we had a place where we referred to directors where it was intended to be electors. And so what this bill does, or what the amendment does, is strike the word directors, substitute electors in two places to ensure that we're actually talking about who we intended to talk about. I ask for an aye vote on the amendment.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L003? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L003. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Is there further discussion? Senator Gardner.
Thank you. And with that, members, I renew my motion for the passage of Senate Bill 160 on second reading as amended. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 160. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Panetta, will you please read the title to Senate Bill 132?
Senate Bill 132 by Senator Donovan concerning the regulation of digital communications and in connection therewith creating the Digital Communications Division and the Digital Communications Commission.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 132 and the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report.
To the committee report. Senator Donovan.
I need to amend the committee report. Oh, okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee report shows the adoption of a strike below amendment, and I ask for the support.
Is there any discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of the Senate State Affairs Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The aye has it, and the report is adopted.
No, it was so nice to you.
There is an amendment at the desk.
Thanks.
Mr. Pianetta, will you please read Amendment L002 to Senate Bill 132?
Amendment L002 to Senate Bill 132. Amend the State Veterans and Military.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L002 and ask for your support. This would add in folks that can be consulted during the study period, as it adds two more people into that group. Ask for an aye vote.
Any discussion? Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Support the amendment. I have some discomfort with the bill itself, but I think it's important that as we bump up against this understanding of what we choose to do and how we choose to understand social media, that the original media, the fourth estate, if you will, who has a system of checks and balances built into it. You know, an editor checks out what the managing editor, what the reporter, what all of the folks involved in the chain are reporting to do some fact checking, et cetera, et cetera. We've kind of, I believe, lost our way. Whereas you can pull up your Adobe software and create an individual who actually has no understanding of the circumstance, create something that looks like professional reportage and put it out on social media as though it were vetted, considered deeply, and importantly, held information. This particular effort would say the media is in fact involved in this discussion, this ongoing discussion of how we try to understand our intersection with social media. So the amendment's good. Not so sure I like the bill, but I appreciate the opportunity to participate in getting another voice involved in what the process might look like. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further discussion on L002? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L002 to Senate Bill 132. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Further discussion on Amendment 130, on Senate Bill 132? Seeing none, Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me first say thank you to the good senator from Vail for not continuing with the original bill. She indeed turned it into a study, which I still don't support, because I really don't think we need to have a study on what I should or should not be able to say, which essentially is going to study what was in the original bill. I want to just give you an example of what the bill was, and maybe that's the direction the study will go. But if a governor appoints 5 people, well, now 7 people with 2 experts. Actually, that's 2 different things. Let me back up. The original bill had 5 people appointed by the governor to determine what was truth and what was not truth, what was viable, what was not viable. The 2 additional ones are part of the study group. But the potential that they may go after when it comes to freedom of speech, let me just give you an example. Governor made a proclamation here a couple of 3 weeks ago regarding meat and agriculture. And I came out against that right here on the Senate floor, which started a fury of other people coming out against it. If those 5 members appointed by the governor would have concluded that what I said was hate speech, what could they have done to me?
A big if, Senator.
Ladies and gentlemen, we don't know where this is going. And what I will tell you is, for over 200 years, our forefathers set in place the First Amendment, which allows us the liberty and the freedom to say what we believe in our own hearts, what we believe is the truth from our perspective, and any attempt by us or anybody else, including this legislature, to put a cap on that or judge that is wrong. I don't think we need the study either. I am going to ask for your no vote on Senate Bill 132, even though it's pared back into a study. 100 and some years later, or 200 and some years later, is not, because you didn't like what somebody said, is not the time to try and put curbs on our freedom of speech. Ask for a no vote on Senate Bill 132.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 132. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Motion is for the body to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report. Gracias a usted. What's the other one for the Sharks?
The Senate will come to order. Senator Gonzalez.
Gracias, Presidente. The committee met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Pineda, will you please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report has had in consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 160 as amended, Senate Bill 132 as amended, passed on second reading in order engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1075, House Bill 1054, passed on second reading in order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Gonzalez.
Gracias, Presidente. I move for the adoption of the report.
Motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 160 as amended, Senate Bill 132 as amended, passed on second reading, ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1075, House Bill 1054, passed on second reading, ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Consideration of House amendments. Consideration of House amendments to Senate bills. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 079?
Senate Bill 79 by Senator Sonnenberg and Representative Pelton and Valdez D. concerning the sale of animals for consumption to informed end consumers in a manner that exempts the sale from certain laws.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move we reject House amendments to Senate Bill 79 and the conference committee be appointed.
Will the good senator please tell us why we should reject?
The House being, other than being the House itself, they put in a provision which means that said that you have to have a signature at the time of the sale of the share, which means at the beginning before you actually harvest the animal. So that means if a producer wants to sell a share, for example, if you live in Lyman and you want to sell a share to someone in Fort Collins or Durango or Colorado Springs, you would have to get their signature before you harvested the animal. That actually would make it harder than it is now and would make it, quite honestly, a detriment to being able to make producer meat available directly to the consumer. So the conference committee will take that section back out, put it the way we did it in our amendment in the Senate. That's the plan, and ask for your aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is that the Senate not concur with the House amendments to Senate Bill 079 and that a conference committee be appointed. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, that motion is adopted. The following senators are appointed as members of the First Conference Committee on Senate Bill 079. Senators Donovan, Chair, Fields, and Sonnenberg. Message from the governor.
March 25th, Colorado Senate. Honorable members of the Colorado Senate, pursuant to the authority vested in the office of the Governor of the State of Colorado, I have the honor to inform you that I have approved and filed with the Secretary of State the following acts. Senate Bill 68 concerning the enactment of the Colorado Revised Statutes 2020 as the positive and statutory law of the State of Colorado, approved on Thursday, March 25th, 2021 at 3:40 p.m. Senate Bill 90 Small Group Health Insurance Plan Renewal, approved on Thursday, March 25th, 2021 at 3:40 p.m.
Members, would the Capitol Choir please organize so that we may celebrate a number of birthdays that include Senator Heisey, August 8th, Senator Liston, also August 8th, Senator Bridges, August 9th, Senator Janal, August 11th, Senator Fields, September 7th, Senator Kirkmeyer, September 15th, and your president, September 2nd.
It's 2020. Is there not a choir? You gotta stand in the middle. It's your birthday. It's not until September. It's for your last birthday.
Happy birthday, Senator. And him. And so, yeah, let's do that. Senators, we'll do, Julie, we'll do senators and the president. When is this birthday?
Okay. September.
Huh?
September sometime.
I think it's always on election day.
Ready? Who's starting us? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear senators and president. Happy birthday to you.
This choir is getting better and better every day. Message from the House.
March 26th, the House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Advisory of Statutes House Bills 1167, 1138. The House has passed on third reading, transmitted to Advisory of Statutes House Bills 1067, 1160 amended as printed in the House Journal March 25th. The House has passed on third reading and returns here with Senate Bill 70.
Announcements. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Yesterday, one of our members in the other chamber was deemed a terrorist for doing the work we do. Every day we come in here and we pass legislation and we work on bills and we gain bipartisan support, which this member in the House did, and for caring about her community, for caring about who she represents, she was called a terrorist, which I've passed many controversial bills. I've brought many controversial bills and lost, and I've never been called a terrorist for doing my job. And I think that's because I'm a privileged white woman, and this member's not. And I want to talk about who holds seats of power in this building, because every single legislature in the entire country has less people of color holding positions of power than their population. Let me say that again. Every single legislature in this country has less people of color representing in positions of power than their population. And last night, one woman of color from this state, who also is part of the LGBTQ community, was called a terrorist. In Georgia, another black woman, part of the LGBTQ community, was arrested for knocking on the governor's door while he signed a bill. I've worked for a long time to make sure that we have a democracy that works for everyone. That when we come together with a diversity of views and opinions, we actually come with better solutions. But there's more risk when you are a woman or a person of color and you run for office. I've had police protection 3 times in my career and death threats. And I imagine the death threats that have come for women and people of color that serve in these positions are much higher than those that aren't. And so I want to take a moment and ask everyone in this chamber that has been told you don't deserve your position because of who you are to raise your hand. I want you to look at who's raising their hand and who's not. I want that to sit for a minute, because there's people in this chamber that take a risk that others don't every day. And last night, when 2 Black women who are part of the GLBTQ community, one was arrested and one was called a terrorist, there's not many of those in the country, right? There's not a lot of LGBTQ Black women elected, and I am proud to call both these women my friends. And they both went through a lot last night, and I just want to acknowledge that if we're going to actually have a democracy that brings solutions for everyone, we need everyone at the table, and we're not doing that yet, and we can all do better.
Further announcements. Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate what my colleague has said and brought to light. I don't know what context it was placed in. I do know that when I first learned about it, it came in as a fundraising email for that representative. And I want you to remember, and with all due respect to the President of the Senate, who I have the utmost respect for, he also called those of us that don't wear masks a terrorist as well. Doesn't make it right, but to politicize this, I think, is doing us an injustice as people that want to work together to solve these problems. Understanding that we may have different views, we may have different ideas, but we're all good people at heart, trying to do the best we can to represent our district and keep that integrity that each and every one of us have. I ask you to keep that in mind as you keep hearing the press want to blow things out of proportion. Mr. President, with all due respect, thank you for the opportunity to come down and give this moment of personal privilege.
Senator Gonzalez.
Gracias, Presidente. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Colleagues, I find myself in an interesting position this morning. As a Chicana legislator, I carry a duality. In some respects, I've been dismissed. In some ways, who I am, my family, what I represent, has been marginalized. Yet I also want to recognize that the very ability that I am able to speak to you all from this well means that I carry privilege. The fact that I wear this badge, the fact that we all wear these badges, means that we all carry privilege. Perhaps we all can acknowledge and appreciate that tension. Colleagues, over the past year, Asian American and Pacific Islander communities here in Colorado and across the country have experienced a rise in hate and violence. Research by the Center for Study of Hate and Extremism found that in 16 American cities over the course of the last year, anti-Asian hate crimes rose by 149%. It's true in my district in Denver, it's true across this country. Speaking of Georgia, just last week, we witnessed an inhumane and deadly attack in Atlanta where 8 victims, 6 of whom were Asian identifying, were brutally murdered because of their race and gender. Now, just earlier this week, Boulder has been added to the list of communities that have endured the mind-numbing, heartbreaking instances of gun violence. And y'all, there are some real deep conversations that we need to have about power and privilege and white supremacy. We all have work to do. And so we have to come together, Black, white, Latino, Asian, and Indigenous, to come together and say, yeah, basta. This is enough. Let's stop this extremism. Let's stop this hate. As leaders, as folks who wear this badge, it is our responsibility to listen and to lead. Tomorrow, colleagues, at 11 a.m., leaders from the AAPI community will be organizing a rally of solidarity to condemn the hateful acts that took place last week. In Atlanta, there's not going to be politicos speaking. This is community. And I want to invite you all to join me there. Tomorrow, the west steps of the Capitol, 11 a.m. Listen to the folks who are in pain. Thank you, colleagues.
Senator Fields.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues. I want to thank the senator from Westminster that has brought to our attention.
Would the good senator from Arapahoe County request a moment of personal privilege?
Yes. Mr. President, I would like to request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
I want to thank the good senator from Westminster who talked to us initially about this conversation about the meaning of words. We have probably all heard about this. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words would never hurt me. But that's not true. Name calling hurts. It hurts. And Mr. President, I don't know the protocol, so I'll pay any fine if it's under $5. But it's my understanding that the Weld County Sheriff called one of my colleagues in the House a terrorist. That's name calling. Are you a terrorist because you pursue justice and fairness and integrity for the people that you represent? Does that make you a terrorist? We all are down here to represent our community. But you have the police calling someone a terrorist that's a lawmaker. That kind of rhetoric is unacceptable and it is dangerous. It's also disgusting. It's disgusting. I can express my opinion and my thoughts and my concerns without calling you a name. Just because I'm an African American woman, I've been called all kinds of names growing up. But I was taught to not own that. But when you are an elected official and you represent Weld County or wherever, and you're calling people, do you know what a terrorist means? Look it up. My colleague is not trying to introduce or to condone terrorism in the state of Colorado. If you know anything about her work, it's about fairness and justice for all. Unacceptable. It's dangerous. We need to turn the volume down as it relates to name calling. These dog whistles, or whatever you want to call it, the rhetoric that incites violence, time out on that. Our kids are watching us. And if we use certain words and language, we're teaching our kids, the next generation, in reference to how to behave. You can have your opinion, but do you need to have name? Do you need to call me something? Like, do you need to call me a terrorist just because I have a different opinion? I would say no. Words have consequences. And some words cause people to fight. Sometimes words cause people to react. It happens to me. There's some things that I hear down here that causes me to respond, because words do trigger certain reactions. And in the state of Colorado, I think we're better than calling lawmakers terrorists. We're better than that. Let's keep any insults we don't need that. We can justify our policy and our position and our thoughts and our concerns without calling somebody a name, especially when it's hurtful. I have 4 grandchildren. What if somebody called me a terrorist? And I have to explain to my grandkids what it is to be a terrorist. I'm not a terrorist, and neither is my colleague in the House. Why is the chief of police in Weld County calling someone a terrorist who hasn't committed any crime in the state of Colorado as she's representing her community? What's next? If you're going to call somebody a terrorist, what's next? What's the next name you're going to use to define somebody? What's next? What are you going to call me? You going to call me out of my name? My name is Senator Rhonda Fields. Call me by my name. Call me by my name. If you don't like what I'm saying, tell me. Let's be adult to adult, and let's talk about our position and our policy and our thoughts and concerns. You don't have to call me on my name. But if you do, there's going to be a response. We have this saying in the black community, it might be in the white community, it might be in the Latino X community, whatever. And it's called about playing, when you talk about somebody's mama, it requires a response when you do that. Maybe that was in the 60s or 70s, I don't know when it was. Let's talk about the issue. We don't have to put labels on people. Let's talk about the issues. Language and words do matter. So, to the sheriff of Weld County, pick up the phone, send a text, send an email. It's okay to communicate with someone without demeaning them and putting a label on them that they are a terrorist. You just put a target on their back. Why are we trying to incite violence in today's environment where there's so much hate that's going on? And you represent a community for all people.
Would the good senator from Arapahoe County like to be extended to her next 10 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe I'm done. Thank you so very much for this opportunity.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to make it clear that I did not agree with the statements made yesterday by the Sheriff of Weld County. And I definitely agree with what the good senator from Sterling had to say, and our previous speaker, I agree with what she had to say. And I called the sheriff this morning, before we came down here, and said, hey, dude, it's not helpful. And he said, look, and I do know the context, because when I asked him, I told him, hey, this is not helpful. He told me the context, and I'm not going to repeat it here, but if anybody wants to know what the context was, I'll be glad to meet with you afterwards and tell you individually. It had nothing to do with her being black. It had nothing to do with her being gay. And to try and politicize that, I think, is just wrong. It had to do more so with her voting record, so to speak. Again, wasn't right. And like I said, I told him that wasn't helpful. But one side can't just condemn another when that one side used the exact same words. This exact same House rep called our president, our former president, a terrorist. Does that make it right because he's the president and you don't agree with our president? I would ask everybody to raise hands if everybody think that was okay, that a legislator here called our president a terrorist, but I'm not going to play that game. I would hope everybody on this side and this side would think that it was wrong for somebody in the state legislature to call our president of the United States, whether you agree with him or not, a terrorist. I would hope everybody would agree with that. Words do have meanings, and I totally agree. We should not be calling people that have come down here to do their job, to represent their districts, terrorists. It gets us nowhere. It just causes hate and discontent when we all need to work together for not only our districts, but for the entire state of Colorado. So I would ask that everyone in this chamber and the chamber next door to remember that words do have meanings, and words are hurtful. But it goes both ways. One side doesn't have, the monopoly on calling people names and then condemning the other one. It goes both ways, and we all need to not call our fellow lawmakers terrorists or our President of the United States. No matter what I think of our current one, I'm not going to call him any names. I'm not going to certainly call him a terrorist, because that's wrong. So please, in the future, I pray that we all be more civil to each other, and I ask that from all of elected officials, not just the ones in this chamber and the one across the way over there, but all elected officials throughout this state when talking about their legislators or federal legislators and the president. So thank you, Mr. President, for the time.
Senator Colker.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I have a moment of personal privilege?
Granted.
Thank you. When we were talking earlier this week about the shootings in Boulder, I start writing down some things, and I start thinking of what's going on in our society, start thinking about how these things are happening over and over and over again. There's not one reason. There's a multitude of reasons. And when something like this that happens from one public official calling another public official a name like that happened, and we bring up this discussion today, and we all are on the same page that we believe we shouldn't be calling each other names. One of the things that I was pleasantly surprised by when I came here for the first time was how we treat each other, Republicans and Democrats. With all the national vitriol that's going on, I look over here and I see people I call friends. We can disagree. We can disagree and not call each other names. We can disagree and still respect each other and move on and not hold things against each other. This, what is happening, is a microcosm, this name calling. And it happens on both sides. It's a name calling that we here in this Senate can stand up to every time it happens. And we can be the example of showing everyone in our state it's not about me, it's about we. Because we need each other. We're neighbors. We don't live next door, but we're still neighbors. And what do you do for a neighbor? Many times you go out of your way to help your neighbor. You live respectfully, hopefully, with your neighbor because that's someone you see every day. when the good senator from Longmont the other day talked about preschoolers doing lockdown drills. Shook me to the core. Because my wife and I are raising a preschooler and an 8-year-old. And we are trying to be good examples to those children. To say, don't call names, don't bully other kids, work with each other, try to understand where the other person is coming from. What's happening in their life that they're acting that way? Because that's one of the things that leads to the actions that cause so many deaths in this nation. Thank God I had a mask on that day, so you didn't see me cry into my mask. I'm crying today because it's this kind of stuff that leads to the hatred, to the villainization of people. It's this kind of stuff that leads us down that path to go out of our way to kill people that we don't even know. Is this our new cultural norm? Is this the new normal? Where I post on Twitter, I'm looking for minority business owners looking for government contracts, LGBTQ, veteran, white females. And the replies I get are awful. That I'm a racist. I'm a white racist. The implied replies are, I'm a race traitor. What the hell? I'm trying to figure out how we got here. I'm trying to do good work. I'm trying to lead by example. We don't come down here to blame, we come down here to fix what is wrong. And we do that by leading by example. So all of us are in this together. We may agree to disagree. And that has been the most pleasant experience that I've had here. Because I'm not going to agree with everybody here, and I'm not going to agree with everybody here. But we still work together. This is not middle school. We are adults, and we're going to lead by example and bring back civility and respect. Thank you.
Announcements. Announcements. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. We do have a bill to read across. You don't have to be here. I move that the Senate stand in recess until 11 a.m. today.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will stand in recess until 1100 today.